Peace and favor to all. Welcome back to E.L.V.I.S, Exploring Life with Visual Impairment Solutions, where we enjoy, enhance, explore, and empower accessibility innovation for all. I'm your host, Richia R., and today we're talking about another powerful piece of legislation, H.R. 3417, and how IT can help push digital justice forward. The problem we all face. So, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been left out of a Zoom meeting, a school lecture, or a court-ordered appointment because the platform wasn't accessible enough? Maybe the captions were off, screen readers didn't work, or you couldn't access basic settings without a mouse. Let's talk real. Whether it's a telehealth visit, a job interview on Zoom, or even a government website. Many platforms still aren't accessible to people with disabilities. As someone who's visually impaired, I've experienced it firsthand. This month, I had the opportunity to speak out at a town roundtable about the growing inaccessibility of state websites. We're talking about pages that auto-refresh and erase your work, scrolling image sliders that break focus and confuse screen readers, live chat pop-ups that time out and reset the page, and those frustrating expand collapse menus that screen readers just can't interpret properly. And that's just scratching the surface. What HR 3417 actually does. That's where HR 3417, the 21st Century Technology for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Persons Act, comes in. It's a bipartisan bill introduced by Representative Mark Takano, a Democrat from California, Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican from Pennsylvania. But more recently, H.R. 3417 is pushing for Websites and Software Applications Accessibility Act. In the 119th Congress, introduced May 2025 by sponsors representatives, 8 sessions, RTX, and Rep. Steeney, H. Lawyer. This bipartisan legislation aims to establish uniform accessibility standards for websites and applications operated by employers and employment agencies, labor organizations, public entities, accommodations, testing entities, and commercial providers. The goal is to ensure that digital platforms are accessible to all individuals and focus on those with disabilities, promoting best practices and digital access. This isn't just a bill for the deaf and hard of hearing community. It opens the door to a future where all digital platforms must be accessible to everyone, including the blind, low vision, deaf-blind, and folks with mobility or cognitive challenges. It empowers the FCC to hold platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google Meet accountable for accessibility before they go live. Think of it as updating the Americans with Disabilities Act for the digital age. So what's actually in this bill? Glad you asked. H.R. 3417 is a piece of federal legislation introduced to update and expand accessibility requirements for communication technologies. Right now, platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, even classroom tools like Canvas and Blackboard aren't legally required to meet accessibility standards unless they fall under older telecommunications laws. This bill closes that gap by authorizing the FCC to regulate accessibility on these modern platforms and ensure they meet the needs of users with disabilities. That means required captioning and transcripts, support for screen readers and keyboard navigation, enhanced sign language compatibility, and accountability for accessibility before a platform goes live. Not as an afterthought saying this in my most presidential voice. Let me be clear. This bill goes beyond hearing disabilities. It's about digital equity for everyone, including people who are blind, low vision, deafblind, or have mobility-related disabilities. This is what we mean when we say digital justice for all. I recently had the pleasure of attending a call with Mr. Maurice Mines, president of the NFB Deafblind Division. In addition to answering questions concerning the deafblind unity, Mr. Mines discussed his journey as a deafblind African American in a community marked with non-inclusivity. I engaged with him on his experiences using conference platforms such as Microsoft Teams and Zoom. He emotionally expressed his difficulty with the learning curve of these platforms, as well as the lack of training, as most companies and organizations have moved their meetings from in-person to digital platforms. Although this is convenient to engage the broader landscape of the disabled community, the lack of sensitivity and needs was expressed. If you don't think it's a challenge for someone with visual impairment to navigate a meeting platform, now layer in the complexity of someone using a hearing aid or an audio implant. Period. Personally, I just love that moment on a Zoom meeting where there are multiple screen readers being broadcasted at one time during the meeting. FYI, I'm being ironic. It's almost like being in a horror film. You're just wondering where all the voices are coming from, period. So let me make this even more personal. Imagine a student who's blind trying to access a virtual classroom that doesn't support screen readers, or a deaf employee struggling to follow a Zoom meeting with no real-time captions. That's digital discrimination. The bill will allow people with disabilities to participate in remote work, education, telehealth, and government services with the dignity and ease that non-disabled users take for granted. Why now? Post-pandemic, remote and hybrid communication is the new normal. And while tech has skyrocketed forward, accessibility has been lagging behind. But here's the kicker: accessibility benefits everyone. Captions help people in noisy environments. Keyboard shortcuts boost productivity. Clear visual design aids comprehension for neurodiverse users. In short, inclusion drives innovation. HR 3417 is a step toward a future where no one gets left behind because of how they access tech. Segment 3: Who's pushing back? Now, not everyone's cheering for this bill. There's quiet resistance from telecom and tech industry lobbyists, particularly those tied to major conferencing and enterprise software companies. Why? Because building accessible tech costs money and effort, and some of these companies still see accessibility as a nice to have instead of a civil right. It is my hope that episodes like this will change that mindset. Segment 4: My Role in Advocacy. Here's the part I'm really excited to share with you. I am putting in that work. I've scheduled meetings with my own state legislators to talk about supporting HR 3417 and expanding awareness about accessibility failures in government digital services. And I'm doing more than just talking. I'm cataloging and categorizing real examples of poor digital design, like those collapsing boxes, refresh bugs, inaccessible forms, with the goal of adding them into legislative conversations as case studies. Because data matters, stories matter, our voice matters. Call or email your U.S. House representative and ask them to support H.R. 3417. Share this episode and talk about your experiences on social media. If you're a coder, a UX designer, a policy student, get involved in building accessible tech. And if you've got your own list of digital access barriers, start documenting them. Let's build a grassroots archive of what needs fixing. This bill can't pass without people power behind it. Segment 5: What you can do right now. So here's how you can help this bill and the people it affects get the momentum it needs. Call or email your U.S. House representative and ask them to support H.R. 3417. Share this episode and talk about your experiences on social media. If you're a coder, a UX designer, a policy student, get involved in building accessible tech. And if you've got your own list of digital access barriers, Start documenting them. Let's build a grassroots archive of what needs fixing. This bill can't pass without people power behind it. Outro music swells, confident and motivating. Thanks for tuning in to E.L.V.I.S, where we're not just dreaming of accessible futures, we're building them. Subscribe, share, and stay with us for the next episode where we'll continue with Tech Talk. Until then, enjoy, enhance, explore, empower. This is Ria signing off for Digital Justice. Let me know if you want a video caption script, thumbnail concept, or social media caption to promote this episode.